Madam Chair, the live stream is just connecting. It'll be about 10 seconds.
Okay.
Madam Chair, you are connected.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. Beautiful morning to have a Zoom meeting or a WebEx meeting, whichever one we're in. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and our first motion will be read by Jeanette.
Moved by Councillor Higgins, seconded by Councillor Doyle. Resolved that Council resolve itself into Committee of the Whole closed session as authorized under Section 239 of the Municipal Act to consider adoption of closed minutes of meeting held June 17th, 2020, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board as it relates to mediation with the City of Kingston regarding shared services agreements, and labor relations or employee negotiations as it relates to the contract with the Ministry of Transportation for the Howe Island Ferry.
Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Okay, I hear Ron. Motion is carried. So now we will leave this meeting and go into a closed session meeting.
So it'll come up on it. See, there's Francis.
Here's Bruce. Can you hear me, Francis?
I can.
Okay, I can see you.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, I see Megan. IT, Counselor Ron. Dennis.
How come you see all those people? I only see Francis and Bruce.
Push the little arrow at the bottom. It'll show you more people.
What little arrow?
There should be a little arrow at the top and at the bottom, and that will show you more people.
Very bottom.
Oh, I can see Dennis, but I just see one at a time.
We're in the
Okay.
full screen mode, Bill.
That's all right. As long as I can hear you, that's all that matters.
It's a little down arrow, Bill, right at the right-hand bottom, just above the leave
It's
area.
like one that says share screen.
No, it's
Oh.
above that. Look over to the far right where you see leave the meeting. There's a little arrow at the bottom underneath everybody's picture, just above leave.
No, I don't see anything.
Oh, well, it'll come up. You'll get more once the meeting resumes.
You have to have your cursor over it. to come
There.
up.
I got him. I
So
can see the most important person in the county. I can see Kelly.
Okay. Are we all back?
I thought it was here, but
Is Alan here? Yes. Oh, there he
I'm
is.
here.
Okay.
I have my picture.
Okay. We have a approval of addendums, Jeanette?
Sorry, Madam Warden, we just need to move a motion to rise from the committee of the whole first.
Oh, right. Okay. Do you want to read that one?
Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Higgs, that resolve that council rise from committee of the whole closed session without reporting.
Any discussion? All those in favor? I need to see your hands.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, motion's carried.
I voted twice.
It's okay, I only counted you once. Right,
And Madam Warden, there is no addendum.
okay. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof of any item on today's agenda by any member of council?
No.
Hearing none, we'll note that in the minutes. An adoption of minutes motion.
Moved by Councillor Rebel, seconded by Councillor McDonald, resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held June 17th, 2020 be adopted.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Ron Hagan?
Yes.
Okay, motion's carried. There's no deputations or presentations, no proclamations. So we're going to move into the committee of the whole.
Moved by Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Higgins, that council adjourn and meet as the committee of the whole with the warden in the chair.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion carries. Jerry, I didn't see your hand up. Jerry's frozen.
Madam Warden, I believe Jerry is frozen. We've got IT support contacting North Frontenac to try and work this out.
Okay, excellent. All right, briefings, Mr. Kelly Pender. CAO monthly report.
Mm,
Morning,
Jerry
everyone.
voted.
Megan, can you put the presentation up? Thank you very much. So welcome to the July 15th County Council meeting, and this is our third virtual meeting. So we're starting to get the hang of it, but hopefully we'll be back together soon. Next slide, please. As usual, I'll touch on a couple of things on each slide, but certainly through the warden, if you have any questions or if you'd like any follow-up, we'd be pleased to follow up with anything after the meeting as well. So we continue to meet on a regular basis with the county CAOs, reviewing our pandemic response, as well as working on the strategy core service delivery review. and dealing with day-to-day issues. We have another meeting scheduled for next week. We did have interviews with the selected architects for the architectural review, along with the Conservation Authority last week on July the 8th. And there is a report in front of you today making a recommendation. And we continue to meet with the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and we have another meeting on Friday, the warden and I, a virtual meeting. Next one, please. As you know, we had mediation with the City of Kingston, and we're waiting for the City of Kingston to provide any feedback on that. Assuming there is no feedback from the City of Kingston, we will be seeking arbitration, which could take as long as 9 months to a year to get to arbitration, and then a decision after that. Next slide, please. So the province has amended the regulations to allow us to continue to use virtual means and provide for proxy voting through the pandemic, and we'll be reviewing our process going forward. Our complication has been our proximity to a long-term care home facility and the screening responsibilities, but we may look to having a mixed meeting format where councils can meet in person or log in, and where we still have the public meeting virtually. Next slide, please. With respect to the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, we remain focused on the broadband and cell gap projects. We'll be receiving an update on Friday on the RFP process for the cell gap project. And EOWC has endorsed a further project to look at broadband and seeking funding to have gigabit service to homes throughout Eastern Ontario. We anticipate that we'll be having a presentation from EORN in the coming months, detailing exactly what that would be required, what it would require in Frontenac County. And the next item is the long-term care. The Wardens Caucus has endorsed a recommendation to begin an RFP project to look at long-term care across Eastern Ontario and to get a snapshot of what municipalities contribute to long-term care. Just at a high level, it's about $32 million in local taxpayers go to long-term care throughout Eastern Ontario. So we think that this gives us a stake in the consultations and review of long-term care that the province is conducting as well. And AMO has advised that they will be seeking status at the table where there's going to be discussions on the future of long-term care. So stay tuned for that, and we hope to have a presentation similar to the one that we had on paramedics for Eastern Ontario. We hope to have that sometime near the year end. Next slide, please. The long-term care sector, as I mentioned, the Premier has acknowledged that there is significant work to be done there. And I think the direct quote is, he didn't create the problem, but he's prepared to solve the problem. And our participation in that is going to be critical. We've identified a number of different issues, in particular, the funding of long-term care new home construction. For example, in Eastern Ontario, Northumberland County and the United Counties of Prescott-Russell are in the process of reconstructing a new facility, and our turn will be coming soon because Fairmount Home doesn't meet the current guidelines and certainly won't meet any guidelines that will be required under pandemic response. And the funding formula from the province to fund new homes, it leaves Northumberland County and the United Counties of Prescott-Russell with significant deficits over a 25-year financing period. And that's one of the things that needs to be addressed. Next slide, please. Phase 2 of Rowan's Law may impact your local municipalities wherever you have sports groups. They're required to have concussion protocols, and in particular, if they're using your facilities, whether that's an arena or a soccer pitch, those protocols need to be in place, and they should be incorporated as part of your work with each of those sporting groups. The Ministry of Natural Resources is also working on information sheets regarding coyotes, wolves, and wildlife, in particular interest for municipal governments and our response. And the province is also looking at the excess soil regulation, and they've extended that by 6 months to January 1st, 2021. So municipalities have a little bit more time to think about what that has, what kind of impact that may have on your municipality. Next slide, please. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans released 2 interim codes of practice, culvert maintenance and temporary stream crossings, which has significant implications for your municipal road operations. And just a reminder that from a fisheries and oceans perspective, quoting an old DFO official, if you can walk through it and get your feet wet, it likely has fisheries implications. And your public works managers are going to need to have to be up to date on that, as well as our trail operations is going to need to be up to date on that. Back last year, Kevin Farrell gave us a presentation on next generation 911, and the CRTC has provided direction to telecommunication service providers to make those necessary changes, but they have revised the dates. In other words, we're still going to need to be meeting those revised standards, which includes a 48-hour response to addressing changes and significant changes to the way that your building inspectors and planning staff and GIS staff react to address changes. So those are going to be implemented. This is part of what we've presented to Strategy Corps, and hopefully there'll be some recommendations coming out of that. But again, it's a regulation that'll be coming down that'll significantly affect our operations, and we're going to need to account for how that happens. Next slide, please. The Ministry of Energy has extended the energy reporting deadlines to October the 1st. They're normally during the summertime, and there's going to be webinars giving your staff background on how that happens, and our reporting will take place before the deadline. Next slide, please. The FCM, through the Green Municipal Fund, has opened up funding for community efficiency financing. Apply for grants up to $175,000 to evaluate approaches within your community's local context. Innovative fundings that directly support homeowners to reduce their energy bills. So if your municipality is interested in doing regional energy or solar projects that homeowners can participate in, there is grant funding available, and the deadline for that is October the 30th, 2020. Next slide, please. As well, the Municipal Asset Management Program, accepting application for grant funding up to $50,000 to fund asset management initiatives for your community, and the county has been participating in that program, updating our asset management studies. Next slide, please. Thank you to Matt and our paramedics and long-term care staff. Our numbers continue to increase for social media. Significant participation in social media related to both the paramedics and long-term care during COVID. In particular, a lot of participation on window visits and helping our residents feel connected. And a big shout out to our volunteers and our volunteer coordinators and residents aides who have been participating in outdoor visits. It's our understanding that with phase 3, at some point over the next few weeks or a month, the province will also mandate inside visits. These are extremely staff intensive to organize and to staff. For example, right now we have 2 outdoor areas. They have to be supervised. The visitor is required to have had a negative COVID test result within the previous 14 days. And the resident aide stays between the resident and the visitor for the entire half-hour visit to make sure that social distancing is maintained. So we're doing those 2 sites currently, and if we move from the 2 exterior sites and include an interior site, it's going to require a significant staff investment to make that happen. But I think from both the resident and the visitor perspective, it's been highly successful, and it's been reflected in our social media. Next slide, please. Planning department updates. So the special rules related to declared emergency, establishing June 22nd, 2020 as the termination date. And thank you to Megan and Joe and the rest of the planning staff. I think we're on top of most of the requirements there, and we'll be capable of meeting the new deadlines. 2 upcoming open houses and public meetings related to subdivisions and condos. The Sunbury subdivision open house on July the 22nd from 5 to 6, and the Ardoch Lake condominium public meeting July 22nd at 6:30. And if you're interested in those, you should have been provided with registration details. These are going to be our first significant county-led public meeting initiatives, and we look forward to lots of public participation. On a happy, sad note, Nicole Goodbrand is leaving, or has left as of last week, the county to continue her planning career with Norfolk County. Her last day was July 9th. And just a reminder, Nicole led all of our lien process improvement and revising all of our applications, which is working their way through your local municipality, as well as was the lead for Frontenac Island planning. So that leaves a pretty good hole in our planning department, and we wish Nicole well on her new job. Planning applications to date remain strong. Certainly, we've got 50 planning applications essentially halfway through the year. We expect to exceed the 89 applications we had in 2019. So while the COVID pandemic has been affecting our day-to-day life, it's actually had the opposite effect on our planning staff and increased workload. And I read in the news this week the significant shortage of lumber because of the number of home projects. So building inspectors, I'm sure in your municipalities have seen a rise in all kinds of activity. And the number of inquiries is significantly up as well, which is a good trend. You know, as a general rule of thumb, for every 10 inquiries, we see 4 or 5 applications, and out of those 4 or 5 applications, we see 2 to 3 building permits. So the leading indicator is the number of inquiries, and that works down to on-the-ground building permits. And that trend continues to increase, and particularly staff have noticed the number of newcomers coming to the area interested in opening businesses. And just judging by the discussions I've been having with EOWC CAOs, the planning activity across Eastern Ontario, because of our relatively low COVID numbers, we're seeing a lot of activity from GTA and from Ottawa looking for a more rural experience, and that reflects on the planning workload. Next slide, please. My favorite slide. So with that, if there are any questions, back to you, Madam Warden.
Okay, I see Dennis's hand and Bill's.
Yes, thanks, Madam Warden. Kelly, just wondering on the July 22nd meeting, are we going to have a traditional open house with all the material around the room, or is it going to be virtual on Zoom?
Virtual. I think Megan can answer that best. Are you able to chime in, Megan, on what that will look like?
For sure. So through the warden to Councillor Doyle, the open house will be held using a virtual format, and we have a number of the members of the public already registered to participate in that meeting. And the open house will be led by the developer, as the open house is not mandated as a requirement under the Planning Act. So the developer will have a presentation prepared, ready to go, and available to answer questions as part of that session.
And is the Planning Advisory Board to attend that?
So the open house is optional for the Planning Advisory Committee to attend. However, the public meeting, which is later on that evening for Ardoch Lake, is being held by the Planning Advisory Committee. So that one is not optional.
Okay. Dennis?
Yeah, to
I
attend the
should
first
come
one, do we have to register or do we just automatically get the information to join? Because I would like to join.
The Committee of Adjustment through the warden to Councillor Doyle not Committee of Adjustment, Planning Advisory Committee will receive links to join into the meeting comparable to how the links were distributed for this council meeting. And the agenda will be circulated this week along with that information to connect.
Okay. Bill, did you have a comment?
Yes, I had a question in regard to Kelly. When it comes to testing, Kelly, we have this 14-day waiting period after you've been tested, but in actual fact, am I right in assuming that you get tested today, and you go into quarantine or if you're clear, it doesn't mean that you can't pick up the virus the next day, and then you could actually distribute it if you've got a clearance on being tested today, and you get it tomorrow, and then go to Fairmount Home, for example. Am I clear in thinking that I can't quite understand the if you've been tested in the last 14 days that you're okay to visit? Can you give me some clarification on that?
Yeah, you're exactly correct, Councillor McDonald. And that's why with the outdoor visits, we maintain the social distancing, and the resident aide stays with the resident and the visitor throughout. So testing is just a point in time. It isn't conclusive. I expect when they move to indoor visits, we're going to have a more significant protocol. They're still screened at the door, their temperature is taken, and they're asked to affirm that they've had a test within the previous 14 days.
Right. Thank you, Madam Warden.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move on the agenda. Is there any unfinished business?
No, Madam Warden, there's no unfinished business.
Okay. We have our Planning and Economic Development Communal Services Study update. There's a motion.
Madam Warden, I think that was last month's agenda.
Oh,
We are on
right.
report from the Chief Administrative Officer, support for the resolution transition for the Blue Box program.
Okay, I have to find a new agenda here. So you go ahead with that motion.
Moved by Councillor Higgs, seconded by Councillor Martin. Be it resolved that the County of Frontenac strongly advocates for language to be included in the regulation that ensures municipalities under a population of 5,000 continue to receive Blue Box servicing, as was agreed as part of the provincial government's Blue Box mediation, as well as schools and public spaces, and further that the County of Frontenac supports its lower tiers that would like to transition their Blue Box program to full producer responsibility between January 1, 2023 and December 31st, 2025, and further that this decision is based on the fact that their collection contract for Blue Box material falls within these dates, and further that any questions regarding this resolution can be directed to Kelly Pender, Chief Administrative Officer, at 613-548-9400 extension 300, or kpender@frontenaccounty.ca. And further that this resolution be forwarded to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and the Ontario Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. And further that a request be made for the county to meet as a delegation with the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks at the AMO conference regarding inclusion of language to be included in the regulation that ensures municipalities under 8 population of 5,000 continue to receive blue box servicing.
Okay, discussion on the motion.
It's
Dennis, this
Ron
is what
here.
you mentioned. Okay, go ahead, Ron.
Just the requesting a delegation at AMO. I believe the delegation request deadline has closed. Maybe we should be approaching this through the EOWC with the multi-ministers or at some format through EOWC if we can't get a delegation.
I think EOWC already has their priority list, so I'm not so sure they would be prepared to take this on at this late date. We can check with them. Kelly, what do you think?
I don't think, oops. I don't think going through the warden's caucus, I don't think we have time to put that together. My understanding was that Councillor Higgins was going to make a delegation request, and if successful, that the county would join in on that. But that was my recollection because we didn't have the timing. And
Okay.
just a big thank you to
yeah, so
Councillor Doyle and Darlene Plumley and Rob Dillabaugh from Frontenac Islands with providing with the technical information on this report. So that was my recollection.
okay.
Okay,
And I did apply, and they will confirm a week ahead. So the application's been submitted in time.
so we may have a positive response yet.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's
Yes.
carried. Motion's carried. Next, touchless payment options at the Howe Island Ferry. A motion?
Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Rebel. Be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac authorize the implementation of a touchless payment option for the Howe Island Ferry, and further that staff be authorized to execute an agreement with Honk Mobile Inc. to process payments for the Howe Island Ferry at an ongoing cost of $25 per month per unit, plus transaction fees.
Discussion? Dennis?
Yes, our council passed a resolution to support this, so we're in favor of that locally and look after the finances. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other questions or comments, all those in favor?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Award of the architectural services. Motion.
Moved by Councillor Higgins, seconded by Councillor Doyle. Be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive for information the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer award of contract architectural services, Joint County of Frontenac and Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority Administrative Office, and further that the warden and clerk be authorized to enter into an agreement with Colburn and Kemble Architects, Inc. for architectural services for a joint administration office to accommodate County of Frontenac at a cost of $150,000 plus HST. And further that staff report back to County Council regarding the participation of the Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority and the cost implications for both parties.
Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Information reports, emergency and transportation services, Councillor Hicks. You're on mute, Bruce. There we
Okay.
go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I had a virtual meeting with Gail and Kevin on July the 9th. Just to report that the county ferry is running well. Residents, of course, are staying in their cars with the windows down if they need it. And they're keeping their spacing as requested. And we, as you just know, now we did approve the electronic ferry fee collection system, and we strongly support that. And there was a person hired to count the number of passengers to keep the numbers below 50% capacity, and that was stopped as of July the 10th. So there's no counting going on now, and that person was laid off. Okay, and on the paramedic side, as reported last time, you had a sim truck that was no longer needed, and it's now put up for a government on the government disposal bid list. And Gail advises that the call volumes are back to normal, and they have 11 new part-time paramedics that have been recruited and are in service. That concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have long-term care, Jerry Martin.
The only real change is the resident visits will probably start to take place in the auditorium. And that's not cast in stone yet because the protocols have not been set up. But that's the next step. According to Susan, she expects resident visits to take place within the auditorium setting. But the parameters have not been set yet as far as the social distancing and how it's going to work. And that's the only change I'm aware of at Frontenac right now.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Next, corporate service, Councillor McDonald.
I have no report as I have not met with any of the corporate officers since the last meeting.
Okay, planning and economic development, Councillor Revel.
Thank you, Madam Warden. As you know, we will be looking at the membership in the Communal Servicing Advisory Committee, but a new governance model was released for latest RFP for this project, and submissions are due by mid-August. So we'll be dealing with that committee later in our agenda. Okay, just going to economic development, we've touched on some of the others through Kelly's report. The Charbot Lake to Clarendon Trail extension work in this phase is expected to begin July 27th. And the work will start and go to Bellline Road, and then head further from there. The Verona ATV Club has made a donation of $8,000 to help the replacement bridge near Clarendon. And lastly, new survey, business survey will be conducted the week of July 20th. That's my update.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, next is external boards and the case of Frontenac Public Library Board. Alan.
And thank you, Madam Warden. So an ongoing issue this summer has been heat, and many of the library branches have been opened as cooling centers, although they're not currently open for full library use at this point, but some dedicated areas have been set up for cooling sessions. We're trying to access more computers, sessions for members of the public, and some of those, the local city branches have been more readily used, but we're trying to open up the rural branches as much as possible, as quickly as we can. Curbside hours are expanding, but still not ready to go into full operation yet until we move into probably stage 4 in the for the county. We're not meeting during the summer. Our next meeting will be in September, and I'm hoping we'll be able to meet in person. The annual report has been provided from the library, and it's full of great stats and information. My report.
Thank you. Okay, next we have KFL&A Public Health Unit. Dennis.
Yes, thank you, Madam Warden. Other than the nail salon outbreak a couple of weeks ago, we're back to normal and doing well on testing, tracing, and isolation, which is key. We're getting tests back within about a day, so we can get on any tracing and any isolation very quickly, as opposed to in the United States, they're taking probably upward or an average of a week to get tests back. So by the time they start their tracing and isolation, that person that's confirmed to have COVID-19 has spread it to many more. So We're now working on stage 3 opening to open up the economy even further. And there's some concern there, and we will be talking a lot about that at our Monday meeting with the mayors across the region. But the stage 3 has some risk, and we know from other countries and other provinces like Quebec, when they open up the bars and nightclubs, that's where the most risk is. The outdoor venues that have been open to date have been very stable and not an issue. It's really the indoor, as we saw with the nail salon, and now with the bars and nightclubs opening up, we'll have a lot of work to do and have to be very vigilant. Thank you. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. Next is Housing and Homelessness Committee, and that's mine. I didn't attend the meeting. I was at the architectural interviews meeting the same day as the Housing and Homelessness Committee. Food Policy Council, Bruce.
We did not have a meeting in July or August, so I will not be making a report now until after the September meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. All right, we have a motion. There's reports from advisory committees of council. Return to council. Motion.
Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Higgs, that council revert from committee of the whole council to council.
Discussion. All those in favor? Ron? Okay. Okay, motion's carried. And committee of the whole report.
Moved by Councillor Revel, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that the report of the committee of the whole council be adopted and that the necessary actions or bylaws be enacted.
Discussion. All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Yes.
Okay. Motions, notice of which has been given, or giving notices of motions? There are none. Communications. There's a list of correspondence there. Other business. Consideration of applications to the Communal Service Governance Operation Model Review Committee.
So through you, Madam Warden, there were 5 applications that we received for this committee. As I noted in the report that went to council last month, at this time, we left the number of citizen appointments open to council so that they had the opportunity to review all of those applications and determine who they would like to sit on the committee without being restricted to having to limit it. So the applications council did receive through a separate cover from the council agenda, and I will turn it over to council for discussion as to who they would like to appoint.
Okay, Alan, you go first.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I think we have an interesting group of applicants, but I think the committee might be well served by having a number of 3. We do have applicants that represent finance, planning, and engineering that I think would make a good combination to support the work of the committee. I know those particular individuals, I believe, are Wayne Robinson, Jim McIntosh, and Mike Keane. So I think that would be my approach to moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Bill, you're next.
Yes, I'm just looking at the applications through to Al. He's got more insight than I have on this. But of the 5 names that we've received, 3 of them are from Frontenac County, and 1 from LNA and 1 from Lanark. I'm just wondering if this may not be an issue, but if we left off someone from Frontenac and put someone in from one of the other counties, do you think or feel that that might have a blowback in any way, shape, or form? That question would be to Al. Thank you, Madam Warden.
Okay, well, which Keane would be the only one. I don't know where I can't remember where he lives, but McIntosh and Robinson are both Frontenac County.
No, McIntosh is Maberly, which is Lanark County.
Your point of clarification, please.
Yes.
McIntosh mailing address is Maberly, but he lives in South Frontenac on Medora Farm Estates on Crow Lake.
Yes.
Okay, okay, that's fine.
Barnsley.
Okay, Dennis?
Yes, thank you, Madam Warden. I agree with Alan that 3 is probably the right number to accept, and I'm not familiar with many of them other than Wayne Robinson. I think he would be an excellent member to have. And I would be a bit concerned, as Bill pointed out, for people that are outside the county. I think we want to make sure they're residents of Frontenac County. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we have a suggestion of Robinson, McIntosh, and Keene.
Madam Warden, if I could just ask a quick question, and
Yes.
my apologies for not checking this sooner, because our committee appointment policy does require that they be either a resident of the county or be able to vote or own land in the county. So can I just ask which of those candidates was outside of the county?
There was a lady who I believe was in LNA.
Madam
that-
Warden, point of order, Madam Warden, she does indicate she is a voter in Frontenac County,
Oh, okay.
although I believe she does her
Yeah.
residences outside county.
So she's in North Frontenac or owns property in North Frontenac.
Can I make a
She
comment?
owns property on Scutamata Lake in North Frontenac.
Okay. Yes, Jerry?
I was just going to reiterate what Ron Higgins just said, same thing.
Okay. Okay, so,
Could I, Madam Warden, can I ask
Yes.
one quick question first? Can we identify just who's from what township? We know Gwen's North Frontenac, Jim is South Frontenac. Do we have anybody in Central Frontenac on that
yes,
list?
Wayne Robinson. Wayne is Central
My
Frontenac.
options would be to, who is, sorry?
Wayne Robinson is in Central Frontenac.
My suggestion is we have representation from each township.
Okay, Dennis?
Yes, I'll move that we appoint the 3 members just mentioned, Wayne Robertson, Jim McIntosh, and I think it was the lady that has a property in North Front.
Okay,
Yeah. I
So
also have,
now-
I was just my list, and I was talking to Ron Vanderwall because I didn't know some of these people, but him and I both agreed on Gwen, Michael, and Jim. But if Michael's South Frontenac, I'm okay with Wayne to get representation from 3 towns.
well, I think it's not so much representation as the skill that they bring with them as well. I think it's
that's-
both. So why don't we
Yeah.
consider 4 instead of
Part of
3?
the- Yeah, part of the problem of the submissions was you could tell the skill level of a couple really stand out, but the others were kind of lean on their input. But that's why I talked to Ron, I understood the skills a bit more. So to me, the skill level seemed to be equal. Some are planners, some are engineers, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so I had Robinson, McIntosh, Keene, and what was the other name from Scutamata Lake?
Gwen
Glover.
What's her last name?
Glover.
I still can't hear, but okay.
Glover, Glover.
Glover, okay. So are we happy to have 4 people instead of 3? And if so, is it the 4 people we've just mentioned?
That would be acceptable to me, Madam Warden.
Okay. Do we have
I'm
consensus?
good with that.
All right. Jeanette,
I'm fine with that.
excellent. Jeanette, could you do the motion with those 4 names?
Moved by Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Higgins, that council make the following appointments to the Communal Services Governance Operation Model Review Committee for the term of council. Glenn Glover, Michael Keene, Jim McIntosh, and Wayne Robinson, and further that bylaw 2013-0020 be amended accordingly.
Okay. Any more questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Okay, public question period. I don't think we have a lot of public on bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Higgs, seconded by Councillor Martin, and there was a slight error in the bylaws. It should be A through C, not A through D. So resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce bylaws A through C that have been circulated to all members of County Council, and that bylaws A through C be read a first and second time.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Moved by Councillor Higgs, seconded by Councillor Martin, resolved that bylaws A through C be read a third time, signed, sealed, and finally passed.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion's carried. And
Moved by
adjournment? Oh, sorry.
Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Revel, that the meeting hereby adjourn at 10:24 a.m.
Discussion?
Jeanette, when is our next meeting? We're not having a meeting in August?
Till September.
No, there is no meeting in August. The next meeting would be the third Wednesday in September, which would be,
Thank you.
if I just have a second here to pull up my calendar, would be September the 16th.
Unless something comes up that we have to call a special meeting in the interim.
Council does have the option to call
Understood.
special meetings. That's correct, Warden Smith.
Yes. And I won't hesitate to call you if we need to get together. So don't go far. Okay.
I can
I
can
should
hear
have taken
how-
that bet, Dennis. I should have taken that bet to be done by 10:30. So, all right. Thank you, everyone, for
Motion.
your participation today. And that motion was carried to adjourn.
Bye for everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Excellent job.
Thanks for
Madam
moving it
Warden.
along, Fran. Have a good week.
Bye-bye. You too.
Everybody.